right, casual fans, it's that time to unite. Last night's Monday Night Raw was one of those shows that reminded us why we love wrestling. There's no time for filler today. Let's get straight into the meat of the show because we've got a lot to talk about, starting with what was the biggest moment from Monday Night Raw. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Casual Wrestling Podcast.
Notorious.
Big it up, big it up.
All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the debut of Penta L0 because that, my friends, is how you introduce a new wrestler to the casual audience. Everything about that introduction was absolutely perfect as far as I'm concerned. From the teases up to Michael Cole kind of letting on that it was the worst kept secret. I thought the music was fantastic. I thought the lighting screamed superstar. Everything they did to present Penta L0 to us made me believe. Someone who doesn't, I'll be honest with you, I don't have a bunch of AEW Penta matches burned into my brain. I don't have a lot of time in Lucha Underground watching Penta. I don't have the TNA pedigree to talk about Penta. But last night, as far as last night is concerned, WWE made me feel like Penta is something special. They made him hard for me to ignore. I thought they did an absolutely fantastic job packaging that all together. If there is one downside, to how good this introduction of Penta is, I think that Tony Khan is probably scrambling to find a way to lock up Phoenix to a lifetime AEW contract now. That's how good it was. Tony Khan at this point has to cringe knowing that he lets go of these superstars. He doesn't retain these superstars, and they go over to WWE, and WWE gives them or shows them exactly how you present these guys as a superstar. Listen, here's my thoughts. This is just my initial thoughts of Penta. Here's what I'm taking away from night one. At worst, Penta is going to be a ridiculously fun upper mid-card guy to watch. I think that's worst case scenario based on what I saw on Monday Night Raw. But if we're talking ceiling, we're talking what is the roof for Penta, I think he's got the potential to be that next Rey Mysterio, that cultural icon, and possibly a world champion. We do it all the time. We crown the next Mexican wrestler as the next Rey Mysterio. But I actually saw it with Penta L0. It didn't feel forced. It looks, he's in his natural element. This looks like where he wants to be. Did anybody else notice the level of excitement after Penta finished his match? To me, it's a guy who finally got called to the big leagues. We can put to rest now this argument that AEW is the equal company to WWE. Because when you see guys react the way Penta did, that shows you what the big league is, right? He was practically glowing when he grabbed the microphone. And why wouldn't he be? No longer does he have to wrestle children every week. No longer is he going to have to fight for his spot. He actually now can have well thought out production and storytelling worked into who he is. He can actually, there's a budget for merch. They can make masks. Everything just gets a little better when you get to WWE. It almost looks to me like a guy who just got out of prison, right? There's just a relief. It just looks like he made it to the Super Bowl after a career of fighting in Lucha Underground and fighting in TNA and scrapping in AEW. It looked like a guy to me who was relieved to finally get to the top level. And WWE does such a good job, like I said, of presenting this person to us, especially to casual fans like myself who aren't real familiar with Penta L0. But it goes from the camera work of WWE, like I said, the production, the lights, the music, the way Michael Cole everybody just puts Penta over, and it felt perfect. And you can't forget, shout out to Chad Gable, right? Because if you're talking about the perfect choice to put in the ring against Penta as his first opponent, Gable is just as, we have to give Gable the credit. He made him look like a star. And that's why I can't help but laugh at the IWC, right? Because IWC will stand on their soapbox all day, and they'll talk about match ratings and Dave Meltzer's stars and how much it matters and how much it matters to be a great professional wrestler, as they like to call it. And then you get a guy like Penta, a guy come over to WWE, and you see the beginning of storytelling. You see Chad Gable put together the entertainment aspects of wrestling for him. And you ask yourself, has Penta El Zero ever been in one night as over as he is right now, with all of the 5-star technical flips and those things that Dave Meltzer gave out? It took one night for WWE to introduce him to the casual wrestling world and get him more over than he's ever been. And I know that there's going to be IWC that go, well, when he was in Lucha Underground, that's not in the discussion, guys. Lucha Underground came and went because it couldn't garner the fan base, right? It's the same thing I say about AEW. You don't want those numbers dropping down. But if we're comparing AEW to WWE, give me one moment where Penta was ever more over. He's been in WWE for one day. You show me one moment where he was more over. You show me one moment where he was more happy. Look, this guy's family was in tears. And you know why? It's because it's like I've always said. WWE is the big league. He made it to the NFL after playing in the Canadian Football League and the European Football League and all of these other bullshit leagues. He finally made it to the big show. Now, speaking of the big leagues, let's talk about Monday Night Raw as a whole, because something felt different last night. I can't, it's hard to explain. Something felt different. And I think, to me, if we look, this new Netflix deal is already paying off. This Netflix streaming situation, without the constraints of network TV, without the time constraints that network TV gives you, Raw was a tight 2 hours and 30-something minutes. And that was all meaningful wrestling. There was no filler. There was no awkward segments that draw on forever. There was no need to put the Pure Fusion Collective in there to fill up 15 minutes as a time buffer. We were able to just keep it tight and get to the good stuff. And I'll say it. And I know I tend to overhype things, but that Monday Night Raw last night felt the closest I felt to an Attitude Era Raw in a long time. The way the show started, the flow of the show, and the way it ended, it just kind of clicked for me. I never felt the urge to fast forward, because I watched it. I started about an hour and a half later than everybody else, and I never felt the urge to fast forward through anything. And that's saying a lot for me, because when I have the opportunity, usually I'm fast forwarding through a couple things to keep the show rolling. But let me address the IWC here for a second, right? Because there's a lot of trolls in the IWC right now who are messaging me and telling me WWE can't keep this kind of pace. They don't have the stamina, that this is just a short kind of honeymoon period with Netflix and they can't keep it up. But I ask, why not? Like, really, why not? It's not like they brought out the heavy artillery last night. There wasn't, besides the Penta debut, there wasn't a lot of smoke and mirrors and big, the main event was 2 mid-level guys. It was Damian Priest and Finn Balor. If Triple H is able to keep this kind of pacing and build a show within a time frame that makes sense, I think Monday Night Raw is going to be the most must-see wrestling program on TV, because of the creative freedom it's going to give Triple H. I think, there were a lot of us that kind of talked about, well, he's going to be able to kind of push the product into a more mature position. I don't necessarily think that's what's going to happen. I think Netflix is just going to create kind of a time freedom, the freedom to just put on TV what Triple H, the stories he wants to tell. And if that means we're 2.5 hours, That's what we're going to do. If he knows he's up against a football game, we don't have to run long. If he's got a lot to say, if we're running into WrestleMania, we can go 3 hours and 15 minutes. I love kind of the creative freedom that this Netflix deal has brought. But speaking of must watch, let's talk about something I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. And that was Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Going into Monday, I had zero expectation for this match. Their history has just it's got me too many times, too many DQs, too many weird finishes. Who can blame me, right? We've never gotten the proper Finn versus Damian match that we all expected a couple months ago. But that's what we got. That's what we got on Monday. Just an absolutely brutal and beautiful street fight. They used every inch of that arena that they could like a playground. and the spot off of the ledge onto the boxes, that's the kind of moment that makes you sit up and take notice without putting anybody in real danger. To me, that's a wrestling spot. Not doing something going through a glass table or onto the edge of a stairs. We know anybody who knows behind the curtain knows what they landed on, but it's still, the impact was enough to make me go, okay, this match is special. And I think, if this is the end of their story, which I think it is, I think that was the end of Finn Balor and Damian Priest. That was a pretty poetic finish for me, right? Because both guys at this point, when you look at Damian Priest and you look at Finn Balor, I feel like they are both bigger stars in this moment today than they were when they stepped into Judgment Day a couple years ago. And honestly, it's time for Finn Balor to go solo. He's outgrown the Judgment Day. He's graduated from the Judgment Day. Damian and Rhea, they already walked the stage. They've already ascended into the stratosphere. It's now Finn Balor's turn to get that graduation certificate and leave the Judgment Day behind. The Judgment Day will be fine. They can revolve all their storytelling around Liv and Dominic's drama, but Finn has earned this spotlight. And when I talk about Finn, because I understand Finn has been at a higher level at this, but Finn has had setbacks. Finn has had injuries. Finn has had bad opportunities that have kind of dropped his stock in WWE. And I think that this final positioning in Judgment Day did a good job of just reascending him and kind of launching him back in to a solo position that we're all going to be excited to see. Now, while we're on the subject of superstars, let's address the so-called main event Jey Uso, right? Main event Jey Uso, who's going to be main eventing Saturday Night Main Event. I'm starting to think that we might have to take the main event moniker away from Jey Uso and give it to Gunther and call him Saturday Night Main Event Gunther, because it really, to me, feels like Gunther's becoming the go-to guy for these Saturday Night Main Event shows. And look, I know, I get it. I hate on Gunther a lot. To me, he's not the guy they call on when the moment is big. He's the guy they call on when, hey, we got a show, we need a champion, put him on the card, and there's a lot of IWC that are going to pay attention. But we got to talk about Jey Uso, because I know there's a lot of people right now hoping for an upset. There's a lot of people right now that are on social media talking about, is this it? Is this the moment that Jey Uso wins a heavyweight title? I'm all for it. I'd love to see it happen. My issue is WWE's been a little heavy-handed on title changes in the last week or two. I find it really hard that 3 of the 4 heavyweight titles change hands as we kind of come into WrestleMania season. I don't see it happening here. It's why I didn't buy tickets to Saturday Night Main Event. I'll get to that more later. But one of the reasons I didn't buy it, I still believe that these Saturday night shows are glorified house shows. I don't believe that they're going to have these big creative impact changes on the main overall star. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I would love for Jey Uso to pull off a victory against Gunther. I think it only would elevate these Saturday shows and make them feel more important. But based on just the trends of WWE, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet my house on that. I really do believe, I think this is just This is just, right now the optics for Jey Uso are he gets a huge pop and the crowd gets behind him. And I feel like this may be a stepping stone to try to elevate Gunther one last time to see if they can get him over his heel. Because if he can take out the biggest babyface in the company, and by biggest babyface, he's getting the biggest babyface reactions on his way to the ring. If he could take out that level of babyface, maybe they could breathe some life back into Gunther. But let's shift gears a little bit because we have to talk about the Wyatt Six. And we have to talk about why I was absolutely right all along. I know y'all guys, I gloat when I'm right, but we called this a long time ago. The casual community as a whole called this a long time ago. The WWE just totally whiffed on this whole Wyatt Six thing. And this is the problem. The Wyatt Six were doomed from the start. The debut was awesome. It was amazing, right? They might have committed murder. Not sure. We still feel like we haven't got clarity on what exactly happened that night. But to me, the problem with the whole Wyatt Six was that was the climax. We started with the biggest moment that the Wyatt Six could possibly have. There was no buildup. There was no intrigue. There was no storytelling lead into who they are and why they're doing what they do. Imagine this. Imagine if WWE had actually taken the time to bring Bo Dallas back as Uncle Howdy and just done some storytelling with Bo's kind of weird, where he kind of talks in circles and does his creepy thing. But over the next couple of weeks after they bring Bo back, maybe he starts to recruit a Dexter Lumis. And we get a few weeks of Bo Dallas challenging Dexter Lumis, hey, go out to the ring and beat this guy and prove to me that you belong. And then we see Dexter Lumis kind of graduate. Bo Dallas gives him a mask and goes, you're now one of the six. And we do that for the next 6 months, recruiting each individual member of the Wyatt Six, leading up to a moment 6 months from their debut where they do destroy the back of the locker room. To me, that would have had more impact. Instead of it feels like we worked backwards. It feels like we got the climax, the best of what the Wyatt Six could possibly be, and now we're working backwards, trying to scramble to explain who the hell they are, what the hell they're doing. They're kidnapping people, but they're baby faces, and they're in a storyline with Karrion Kross that doesn't really come to resolution, and now they're just a SmackDown problem. Right now, all right, cool. These guys are so cooperative. These crazy guys who kidnap people, they're so submissive and cooperative that when we tell them you no longer can show up on Monday Night Raw, they listen and they go to SmackDown. To me, the Wyatt Six, absolute mess, but we called that from the beginning. But speaking of mess, speaking of a mess, I've got to talk about this. We got to talk about Lyra Valkyria, who somehow managed to win the Intercontinental Championship after generating zero reaction from the crowd. Did anybody else notice? You guys, did any of you notice the lack of crowd reaction that Lyra Valkyria got on Monday Night Raw? You could hear crickets. Literally, you could hear crickets before and after she won the Intercontinental Championship. And I'm going to tell you why. Let me explain to you why. We talk about WWE. WWE has a very casual audience, and they tend to see things and like I say, in kind of a very high school way, right? They see things with a very high school set of eyes. And Lyra Valkyria, when you watch her movements and you watch the things she does, she comes off as the weird kid who eats paper in class. There's just something about Lyra Valkyria that just doesn't sit absolutely right to me, right? Like, she wears a bird costume. Not real. I know they keep trying to explain it as something with Irish gods, but that's not well-known enough knowledge that people really kind of buy into that, right? She walks very awkwardly. If you watch her, she kind of lurches over and she's kind of got a weird bounce in her step. Like, it's just the whole package, to me, isn't working on a level that WWE expects. This feels like one of those things Triple H is forcing. This feels like Triple H trying to kind of phone speed the IWC a talent that they would like and get behind. This is Triple H trying to extend an olive branch to the IWC. We know Triple H loves his kind of NXT indie girls, but to me, Lyra Valkyria feels like a miss. Like, and I'm not saying Dakota Kai is just leaps and bounds better, but I'm just saying when you put the two next to each other, Dakota Kai to me looks like a superstar. I think she's got some things to work on in the ring. I think sometimes she moves a little bit slow for me. Sometimes it looks like she's moving in slow motion, but I think that's things that getting in the ring more, she'll pick up on. But I'll tell you the biggest takeaway. The biggest takeaway I had from that match with Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria, the biggest takeaway for me was how much farther ahead Chelsea Green is in terms of presence. Like, she won the United States Championship. That thing immediately felt like must watch and important. This IC title to me really feels like it's already in danger of being, we knew one of these titles was going to be kind of forgotten, but if I had to put money on it, it feels to me like the IC title is going to kind of be the experimental title for right now. So, but that's kind of my takeaways from Monday Night Raw. We'll pay attention next week. I want to see how they build upon this Intercontinental Championship momentum that Lyra Valkyria. Where does she go? Does she immediately? I think you've got to spin her into a story with like an Io Sky or somebody of some significance to try to pin a spotlight on her. I'm interested to see, can we keep the momentum with Penta El Phoenix? I think that will be interesting. And with Saturday Night Main Event around the corner, I want to see if they give us more, because so far the card I've seen it's not exciting enough to get me to get in my car and drive down to watch it live. All right, guys, it's time for a fun segment of the show we're calling SmackDown Recap: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This segment is where we break down the highs, the lows, and the absolute train wrecks of SmackDown. We're talking about the moments that made you cheer, the ones that made you scratch your head, and the ones that make you wonder if creative has completely lost their minds. It's all on the table here, and as always, there's no holding back. Let's dive in. This week's good, bad, and downright ugly. All right, so let's kick it off with the good. Let's start with the good. Because last week, I gave credit where credit was due. Tiffany Stratton put on a masterclass in how to cash in the Money in the Bank contract. And I said it, I had some concerns coming into this week about, could she step up as a champion heading into WrestleMania season? Could she elevate herself? And you know, this is one of the hardest times to have a spotlight put on you. But in week one, Tiffany Stratton stepped up. She hit a solid double, infield double, right? Didn't hit a home run, not yet. That's okay, though. She's still rough around the edges. She's still green. She's got a ways to go, but that's all to be expected. With as new as she is to wrestling, that's all to be expected. She's not going to be a full-on polished champion at this point in her career. But what we got on Friday was far better than what I think most people expected from somebody on her level. She settled the major concerns I had going in that were worth acknowledging, like how was she going to do on the microphone? How was she going to kind of react when the crowd didn't exactly go the way she wanted? And I think WWE did a good job of protecting and building her, similar in the way that they did with Liv Morgan when they kind of eased her back into the title picture. And that it's a clever style they use where they do interview style promos. It kind of cuts some of the chaos out that's going on with the crowd and having to kind of lead your thought process. You're able to kind of work. I thought she got away from the interview very quickly, which is good. It shows confidence, but it just means that the interviewer was there to protect Tiffany Stratton. Here's what I really appreciated, though, was that they didn't turn Tiffy babyface right away. They're going to let her kind of ease in. I still think she's headed towards babyface, but they're going to ease her into that direction. They didn't let the crowd dictate, because the crowd wants to cheer Tiffany Stratton, but they're not going to let that turn happen too soon. I think they let Charlotte come in. I think they let some things happen before they start to figure out exactly who Tiffany Stratton is. And when she on her microphone, I think she kind of sidestepped the what chance like a pro. She didn't lean too heavily on the dumb blonde gimmick. I just think that she kind of found a comfortable spot. She's going to kind of ride that spot until Charlotte shows up. And I think that, look, I think Tiffany Stratton is going to prove a lot of people wrong, because I've seen a lot of people, I've seen a lot of the IWC say that she can't handle the spotlight. But I think WWE setting her up for success, especially first opponent being Bayley. Perfect choice. Because Bayley's a veteran. Bayley can get, she can take a green champion and make them look like $1 million. Especially, I assume that the relationship between Tiffany Stratton and Bayley is not like a strained relationship, because I think Bayley has a tendency that if she doesn't like you, she can make you look foolish very fast. But if Bayley's on your side, I think Bayley can also make you look good in the ring. So I think that's what Bayley's going to do here. But like I said, let's be honest, we're all waiting to see when Charlotte Flair returns, what happens. That's when the real story begins. Can Tiffany Stratton hang with Charlotte Flair? That'll be the real test. But so far, so good with Tiffany Stratton. Now let's talk about the bad. This one is aimed squarely at our tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Look, I get it, Roman. I get it. You're the new Brock Lesnar, and we've all kind of come to accept this. You're going to work an extremely limited schedule. But my guy, if there was ever a Friday night SmackDown that we needed you to show up at, this was the one, my guy. This was the one. You just won back the Ula Fala. You just officially reclaimed your spot as the tribal chief, and it feels like you gave us nothing. It feels like this was just another day for you, right? Like, think about it. Sami Zayn went on Monday Night Raw. He casually kind of played off the fact that Roman Reigns won the Ula Fala, right? Jey Uso didn't even mention it in his promo. And so who exactly is the tribe that the tribal chief is chiefing at this point? Paul Heyman did his best to salvage the story, but he shifted gears extremely fast to get us back to Roman being in the world title picture. It feels like this tribal chief storyline has become an absolute afterthought. And here's the thing. If Roman couldn't be there live, which I highly doubt that he couldn't, I just think, like I said, he works a very, very limited schedule at this point. But if he couldn't be there live, you could have at least pre-recorded something. You could have had a message for the WWE Universe. SmackDown is the show that you were a participant in for 50 to 70% of this illustrious title run that you had, this world record title run that you had. And it just feels like this story fell off. It just feels like, because I think that's the end. I think that is the end of kind of the bloodline saga, the bloodline story. I think we are going to move into Roman Reigns versus The Rock. I don't even know if that's going to be for the tribal chief at this point. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but it feels like this moment needed Roman Reigns. It feels like you could have gave us just a quick 5 to 10 coming out and kind of celebrating the situation. But it's the same old Roman Reigns, right? This is a missed opportunity to me. This is what the IWC harps on, is that when we talk about storytelling and big moments, Roman seems to be the guy who kind of forgets how important it is to give back to the audience when a moment like this happens. Now, finally, let's talk about the ugly. And I need to ask everybody, am I the only person who absolutely hates this trend that Cody Rhodes has to team up with every random bloodline member because it's starting to look like he doesn't have any actual real friends, right? First off, he tag teamed with Jey Uso. Then he tag teamed with Roman Reigns. Now he's tag teaming with Jimmy Uso. What is next? Are we going to see Cody and Solo Sikoa teaming up at some point to take on Kevin Owens and a mystery partner? I understand the psychology that it continues to fuel the KO storyline. I get that. The problem is, the more they play into this, the more I feel like Cody Rhodes is the heel of the storyline, and hashtag Kevin was right. But let's call it what it is. To me, this is why you get the argument from a lot of fans that Cody Rhodes looks like a lame champion, because at every step of Cody Rhodes' title run, it feels like you can tie his story back to the bloodline. It's like he can't escape their orbit. And honestly, it feels like he needs Roman Reigns and the bloodline to stay relevant, and that's a problem for a world champion. When you can't create compelling stories on your own, it becomes a problem. Here's my biggest problem. Here's the ugliest thing I saw on SmackDown is Cody has a great storyline going on with Kevin Owens. This could be my favorite story in wrestling It just feels like it keeps getting pushed to the side. It feels like it keeps getting put on the back burner so that Cody Rhodes can play superhero with all his super friends and be front and center on SmackDown every week. It almost feels like they don't want Kevin Owens surpassing what Cody Rhodes is from the heel position. And so this is just not clicking for me right now. Maybe I'm on an island by myself on this one, but I don't like the disconnect in Cody Rhodes booking right now. I don't like the fact that it's all coming back to the bloodline, whether it's a match with Roman, a match against Solo, a tag team with Jay, a tag team with Jimmy. I think it's time to just cut the umbilical cord and let Cody sink or swim on his own. Because if this trend continues, if it continues past Royal Rumble, I really think this starts to hurt the long-term legacy of Cody Rhodes' first title run in WWE. But that's my good, my bad, and my ugly from this week in SmackDown. Tiffany stepping up, Roman's missing in action, and Cody's stuck in bloodline purgatory. Guys, let me know. Is that right? Is it wrong? You got a different take? Hit me up. Let me know in the comments. Let's keep the conversation rolling. All right, let's hit some rapid fire news right here. This is where we hit the 5 biggest headlines in wrestling with quick takes, hot opinions, and absolutely no filter. Let's dive right in. Story number 1.
Last week, WWE shifted its commentary teams with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee moving to Raw, while Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore are now calling the action on SmackDown. These changes resulted in Corey Graves being moved from the Blue brand to NXT, a move that has seemingly frustrated the veteran commentator. On X, Graves reflected on his journey in WWE, including being told his in-ring career was over due to injuries. Though Graves stopped short of mentioning the move from the main roster to NXT, the commentator took issue at being told you're not famous enough for your own job. Imagine chasing your dream, then being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty fucking awesome at it. And then, when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job. Just in case you've wondered where I've been.
I'll be honest with you guys. This screams work to me. Like, there's rumors swirling around all over the place that Corey Graves has been medically cleared to wrestle. And let's be honest, this has setup written all over it. The easiest way for me to look at this is you got Corey Graves, who one-time wrestler. You got Pat McAfee, who can wrestle, 2 massive personalities. I wouldn't be shocked if we're building towards a match. Let's label it fight for the table, right? For Corey Graves versus Pat McAfee, WrestleMania. Winner gets to have a spot at whichever table they want in WWE. Now, we know Pat's a special attraction, right? I just think we all know Pat can't stick around forever. He'll roll with us through WrestleMania. He usually goes into August. I don't see why, if we know Pat's going to leave us for game day, why we couldn't just cut the cord early, easily write him off right after WrestleMania, give him that break, and if he wants to come back in January, he can come back and be the third leg on either booth that he wants to be. But to me, this absolutely screams that this is a work. I can't imagine WWE, number one, not being able to create a 3-man table that appeals to Corey Graves. And number 2, I can't imagine them letting someone like Corey Graves just walk from the company. That just seems absolutely insane to me. Story number 2.
WWE's Chelsea Green has a genius idea for her U.S. Championship reign. Green is an outspoken fan of the WWE Divas era, which made her fall in love with wrestling. In interviews, she actively discusses how she once believed she'd be the next Nikki or Brie Bella. Now that she's got her first WWE championship, she's looking at ways to maximize her screen time. When asked if she'd like to see Nikki and Brie have another return and possibly eliminate them from the Royal Rumble, Green pitched a Divas Open challenge for her title. Of course, about a Bella Twins return. I mean, I would love to be like the Diva Killer. I would love an open challenge Divas only. Green told Witty Whittier, HT WrestleZone. I'll invite Maris. I already put it out there into the universe. I will invite Nikki. I will invite Brie. I will invite any diva that wants to come and attempt to take my beautiful, shiny piece of jewelry away from me.
This is the difference in wrestlers who get over and wrestlers who sit around and complain about opportunities. Chelsea Green is out here cooking with peanut oil, right? She's got ideas. She's ripping off Randy Orton, which is fine, because for Chelsea Green, that's right on brand, right? Legend killer, diva killer, it absolutely works for Chelsea Green. It works on so many levels. First, it elevates Chelsea Green. You keep beating legends, your status gets elevated month after month. Second, it's like I said, it's on brand for her to create chaos that kind of stirs up emotion of, well, the Divas era is over. We don't look at wrestlers like that anymore. Why can't Meechin get an opportunity? Why can't these other girls get an opportunity? It's because they're not diva enough, right? That's on brand for Chelsea Green. Third, just imagine like the next 6 premium live events. You could have one with Brie Bella, one with Nikki Bella, one with Kelly Kelly, one with Eve Torres, one with Trish Stratus. Like this just gives you an opportunity to one-off bring back WWE Diva era wrestlers for these matches with Chelsea Green, who I think would just absolutely kill it. And there's one or two reactions you get from this, right? Number one, the fans hate it and they just begin to boo Chelsea Green, which once again, right on brand for her. Or two, the fans are going to fall in love with this version of Chelsea Green, and it's automatically going to elevate her to one of the biggest baby faces in the company. Now, will WWE go for it? I doubt it, because honestly, it doesn't seem like WWE likes to rally behind ideas that aren't generally theirs. But I think this is gold. I think they should give her the ball and let her run with it. At least let her try it a couple times. I think it could be fun. Story number 3.
Former AEW champion Malachi Black could be on his way out of AEW. The House of Black leader hasn't wrestled since AEW Full Gear in November alongside Brody King. The duo competed for the AEW World Tag Team Champions, currently held by Private Party. While he hasn't appeared on television, his other stablemates have. Just last night on AEW Dynamite, Buddy Matthews and Will Ospreay went to war, with the latter coming out on top. According to Fightful Select, those in AEW believe he has finished his contractual obligations with the company.
So this one got my attention because it's starting to feel, if you read the dirt sheets, it's feeling more and more likely like Malachi Black will be the next domino to fall in AEW and return to WWE. And I get why AEW seemed like the right move for Malachi Black back during the Vince era. But now that the landscape shifted and Triple H is kind of the cool booker again, I believe where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe Malachi is planning a succession plan back into WWE. And I don't think you can ignore this trend at this point, right? Andrade left, came back to the WWE, and he's seemingly getting booked decent. I think he can be booked better, but SmackDown's a pretty stacked roster. Now you get Malachi Black coming back to WWE. If he gets booked well, if you see Penta get booked well, we've seen Cody get booked well. If these AEW guys start defecting over to WWE and they're seeing success, I think that the floodgates will open. I think that a lot of these upper mid-card guys in AEW will start to look at opportunities in NXT, and they'll start to look at what opportunities exist in WWE. And I'm not saying that there's going to be a mass exodus, because I don't think WWE is in any position to take on a bunch of wrestlers. But I do think that there's going to come a time in the near future where WWE can begin cherry picking certain guys that they want out of AEW. Story number 4.
WE, part of TKO Group Holdings and Cosm, a leading immersive technology, media, and entertainment company, today announced a multi-year partnership that will see WWE premium live events, such as WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble, delivered to fans in shared reality at Cosm's experiential venues in Los Angeles and Dallas. Fans attending WWE events at Cosm's venues will be transported ringside to arenas and stadiums around the world, providing them with a front row seat to WWE premium live events and putting them inside the action alongside fellow passionate WWE fans. Starting with Royal Rumble at Cosm Dallas on Saturday, February 1st, 2025.
So I've been waiting to talk about this one because for those who don't know, the Cosm, it's like a futuristic movie theater on steroids. We're talking 87-foot LED 12K dome screen that is supposed to make you feel like you're in the middle of the stadium. They're using it for a lot of college football right now, but the place is kind of like a bar slash movie theater. And now they've got a license to host WWE premium live events. And guess what? Your boy grabbed tickets for the Royal Rumble. So February 1st, I will be at the Dallas Cosm. Paid $22. It's not a bad deal. General admission, limited seating, the standing room. I think $22 is a steal. I'm taking the whole family, and I'll let you guys know if it's worth it. But I'm excited. This feels like a game changer to me. This feels like, as they build more of these like Cosm Super Centers, this feels like something that could catch on. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. Looks cool. Story number 5.
Looks like WWE is running a Saturday night's main event opposite AEW, all in Texas. If the schedule listed on Peacock is correct, WWE and AEW will battle for wrestling fans' attention as two of their top shows go head-to-head this June.
This is diabolical, guys. This is WWE running a show on the same night as AEW's big Texas bash. I think they have big expectations for All In Texas, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys. This is a dagger, right? I think this is going to hurt Tony Khan. AEW stands are gonna continue the trend of it doesn't matter. Just wait until wait until the show. We'll show you the numbers. We'll tout whatever numbers there are and claim it's a win. But I gotta tell you guys, if this is all true, because this is according to Peacock, if this is true, I think that WWE puts together just a completely ridiculous card for this Saturday night main event. You may see The Rock. You may see, it may feel like the premiere of Netflix. I think they saw what they can do by putting together these kind of just one-off shows that don't have to make a lot of sense. They're just fanfare. And I think if they're feeling spicy, they're going to put one of these cards up against AEW, and I think it could spell a lot of trouble for AEW in Dallas. But that's your rapid fire news for the week. 5 big stories, 5 hot takes, 1 unfiltered wrestling podcaster. Which story caught your attention most? Let me know in the comments. Let me know, because we always can talk more about it. And with that, casuals, that brings us to the main event of this week's show. We are kicking off something special tonight, a 3-part series we're calling The Casual Call-Up, a premium podcasting event. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble, and today we're counting down the top 15 NXT stars that I'd like to see in this year's Royal Rumble. The series will build up to February 28th, where I will reveal my top 5 NXT stars I want to see take the big leap. Today we're starting with 15 through 11, so buckle up, because it's time to dive in. Who's got the potential to steal the spotlight on wrestling's biggest stage? Starting with number 15, guys. The 15th person I'm excited to possibly see in this year's Royal Rumble is going to be Fallon Henley. And Fallon Henley I'm dubbing the Mandy Rose 2.0. Once again, I'm not an NXT guy, so this is strictly coming from somebody who has very minimum knowledge of NXT. I know what you guys say in the Discord. I know what I see through bits and pieces, and to me, she looks like Mandy Rose 2.0. Before you get all worked up, let me explain. I actually think Fallon Henley has the ability to be better than Mandy Rose. And maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. You guys let me know if that's a hot take. But from what I've seen, she's got a solid gimmick. She's making steady progress in the ring, and she's got the vibe that I could see fitting in seamlessly on the main roster, especially in high-profile moments WWE loves to create in the Royal Rumble. She's not fully polished yet. She's not going to get a big run on the main roster, but I could see the potential of bringing her out during the Royal Rumble. At number 14, I have Charlie Dempsey. And I have to say, I'm a sucker for a gimmick, especially an old school character. I like when guys go old school, and no gimmick leans into more than that. Then when you look at Charlie Dempsey, you see old school. And let's be honest, right? William Regal's son is not going to flop. That's just not in the cards. So Charlie, to me, feels like a throwback to when wrestlers kind of had an aura about him. He's got technical chops. He's got a little bit of charisma. I think he's a strong mid-card guy. I give him some time, and who knows what he could do. But I think for the Royal Rumble, he could be a fun addition. I'd watch out for that. At number 13, I have Stephanie Vaquer. Am I saying that correctly? Vaquer. Now, I know this is probably going to ruffle some feathers because I'm sure a lot of people have her much lower on a list than number 13, but I got Stephanie at 13 because, look, here's the thing. Like, I like the Dark Angel gimmick. I think it's cool, but I just don't know how well she's going to translate to the very casual fan base that the Royal Rumble brings in. For me, it's language barrier, right? It's hard to get fully invested when there's just that disconnect. Now, she could prove me wrong. Absolutely, she could come out, tear it up, do her crazy wrestling stuff, and everybody could get behind it. I just don't know if there's enough casual wrestling fans at this point who know who she is for everybody to be extremely excited about watching her. At number 12, I have Wes Lee, and that is because I think he's just a perfect utility guy. He's someone who can come into the Royal, he can bring some excitement, he can deliver some high energy moments, but he doesn't have to lock into a main event storyline right off the bat. I said, I don't know what the future holds for Wes Lee because I absolutely believe if Carmelo Hayes is struggling to find his fit on SmackDown, I don't think Wes Lee's in a better spot. But having said that, I think in the Royal Rumble, when it's just about creating memories and moments, I think Wes Lee is a guy who could come in and kind of open some eyes real quickly on the things he can do. And at number 11, rounding out this week's list is Tony D'Angelo. Let me tell you guys, this pick is all about the gimmick, right? It's from what I saw last year at American Bash. I was there live. Dude was so over. His energy was insane. He's got a fleshed out character that feels like it could actually work on the main roster starting tomorrow. As long as Triple H doesn't do the thing where he strips NXT guys of everything that makes them special, I think Tony D'Angelo works on the main roster, right? For me, gimmicks, I'm a gimmick guy. Story and gimmick for me are everything in professional wrestling. So I think, to me, that's what gets Tony D'Angelo to be the number 11 pick for this week. But that's the first installment. Next week, we'll go through 10 to 6, and the stakes get even higher as the following week we go through our top 5 NXT stars I want to see make a leap into the Royal Rumble. Let me know, did I nail these picks, or is there someone else that I'm sleeping on? Hit me up. The conversation keeps rolling. I will see you guys next week for part 2 of the Casual Call-Up. But before we get out of here, let's hit up the bitch slap.
Cause you just punched your ticket for a bitch slap. For a bitch slap. For a bitch slap. Cause you just punched the ticket for a bitch slap. For a bitch slap. All aboard.
So it's time for the segment where I take the gloves off and hand out some verbal bitch slaps to the IWC. This is where I respond to the loudest, most ridiculous, or downright clueless comments from the IWC, whether it's a bad take, a false fact, or just plain nonsense. I'm here to set the record straight and defend the casual wrestling community like my life depends on it. So if you came out, swing at me in the comments, grab a chair. It's about to get real. Starting with Rodney Thomas, 1977, commented and said, maybe if you're a casual fan, most fans watching AEW know who wrestlers are. And sure, they might look generic, but they'll probably out-wrestle most of the WWE guys and girls. So let's break this down, because clearly this is a comment from a card-carrying member of the IWC Elitist Club. First off, let's get one thing straight, my guy. Casual fans make up the majority of the wrestling audience. So you're already killing your own argument right there. You know, the people who keep the lights on, the people who buy the merch, the people who pack the arenas, those are casual fans. Those aren't the hardcore AEW fans. So forgive me if I don't spend hours memorizing every indie darling that Tony Khan picks up on his weekly talent hoarding shopping sprees. Now, you want to talk about these guys, they're generic AEW wrestlers, how they're going to out-wrestle the WWE talent? Cool story, but let's be real. Like, I've established this numerous times. Wrestling is not about headlocks and flips. If it were about that, AEW would be selling out stadiums, not having empty arenas. They'd be selling out stadiums every week instead of playing for the same 6,000 to 8,000 diehard fans who chant "Fight Forever" every week. Even though, newsflash, you're not going to be fighting forever if these numbers keep going in the wrong direction. And another thing, what is good wrestling? Like, what you guys keep saying, out wrestling. To me, I don't understand what what you guys are talking about when you say that. Wrestling is about connecting with the audience, and WWE talent does that on a global level. You want to compare WWE to AEW, that's fine, but don't come at me like AEW is God's gift to wrestling just because their wrestlers do 38 variations of a suplex in one match. I guarantee you a guy like Chad Gable can out-wrestle a Will Ospreay every day of the week. It's just the company he's in doesn't ask that of him. So it's not better wrestling. It's just guys going out every week and doing every move they possibly know without it having any context or meaning as far as the story goes. WWE is the big leagues. AEW is just the guys who go out there and do as much as they can every week because they don't know when it's going to be the last week. It almost feels to me, a lot of these AEW guys are just auditioning for WWE anyway. It's like, look how many cool moves I can do. So next time, why don't you take your 5-star Meltzer ratings and your out-wrestle arguments and go hit some bricks, buddy? This is the Casual Wrestling Show. We're not here to argue with people who think that Will Ospreay is the peak epitome of character work. It's time to sit down, my guy. The next comment comes from 23 Feet Shienda. They commented, "It shows you don't know anything about AEW, but you're here making yourself look stupid and lying to people like nobody watches. When Dynamite and Collision bring up 1 million viewers a week, weekly shows bring up 8 to 10,000 for both shows a week. Pay-per-view all in 80K, 50K, last pay-per-view over 10K attended for a wrestling company that's only 5 years old. Those are good numbers." We got to work on our speech there, man. We got to put together sentences that are legible. But first of all, let me congratulate you on being part of the prestigious IWC Statistician Club, because that was way too many numbers to support a bad argument. I can practically hear you patting yourself on the back while you were typing this. Let me remind you of something, though. This isn't math class, my guy. This is wrestling. And if you think that dropping attendance numbers and TV ratings make you sound smart, let me assure you it doesn't. Those numbers are on the decline. So let's unpack this nonsense. Dynamite and Collision, you're arguing that together, two shows combined, bring in 1 million viewers a week. I think that's false, my friend. You can't add those two numbers together, because I guarantee you the same people watching Dynamite are the only people watching Collision. I'm not going to tout. You're talking about 50,000 tickets. Congratulations, right? You guys threw one big party where every hardcore wrestling fan across the planet came to watch. But let me ask you this. Where is the energy week to week? Like, it's not that hard to fill a stadium once a year. There's musicians, there's rock bands who can fill a stadium once a year, but they're not Taylor Swift. They can't do it 2 times in the same city. They can't do it city to city. AEW, they can throw one party and get people to come, but they are struggling on a week-to-week basis. And the truth is, I keep screaming this from the rooftop, my guy, casual fans don't watch AEW. And that's why it's never going to be more than a niche product. You're not appealing to the mass audience. You can have all the flips, all the chops, all the 5-star matches you want, but until you guys figure out how to make stars that people actually care about, you're not playing in the same league as WWE. Stop with the argument that AEW is only 5 years old. That's not a real stat. When a company has unlimited funds, it's like putting a cheat code into a video game. They're not a 5-year-old company. When Tony Khan can continuously pump, most companies have to live off their profits and losses and bank loans. Tony Khan just has an open checkbook to try to recruit anybody who he thinks will better his company. The problem is he doesn't understand how chemistry works and how you have to have a locker room that gets along, but that's a different story. Stop with the AEW only being 5 years old. That's an unreal fact. It is a 5-year-old company, sure, but no real 5-year-old company has an unlimited pocketbook to kind of, it kind of protects them against bad decisions on a week-to-week basis. Most companies that have hit the series of bad decisions that AEW has made over the last 5 years would have folded. It's just that AEW has a pocketbook that can keep them alive. So look, until AEW starts selling out arenas on a weekly basis, I don't really want to hear that argument. I don't think that argument makes sense to me. But there you have it. Another round of bitch slaps handed out by the casual wrestling champion of the world. The keyboard warriors are out there. Keep those comments coming. Whether you love me, whether you hate me, I'll just let you know. I'll be right here ready to bring the heat every time you step into the ring. And starting this week, I want to take submissions. I need people to join me in my conquest in taking down the IWC. I am starting the CWO, the Casual World Order. And I need you guys to stand behind me in the comment section on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Stand up for the casual community and let the IWC know we have a voice in professional wrestling. So that about wraps up this week's show, but don't worry, casual fans, we got plenty to look forward to next week. Here's what's on the horizon in the world of wrestling. This week on SmackDown, Tiffany Stratton steps up to the plate against Bayley. I'm going to go Tiffany Stratton with a big W right there. We've got the Motor City Machine Guns facing off against Los Garza. I think we're building back towards the Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY. To me, that makes the most logical sense. Could be wrong there, though. And we get the return of Solo Sikoa. We get to see what the Enforcer is bringing back to WWE now that he is not the Tribal Chief anymore. On Monday Night Raw, the legend himself, JBL, will be making his return. We have a blockbuster match between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. I'm not even going to attempt to call that because I think it's going to end in DQ with CM Punk getting involved. And we know that the New Day will be back in action because what's Raw without the power of positivity? Are they power of positivity anymore? I think they should change their name to the Darkest Day. I like that, the Darkest Day. But mark your calendars, casual fans. Next week's looking stacked. Until then, remember, casualing fans make wrestling fun. I'll see you guys next time. We're out of here.
Sound, no IWC, only casuals around. No forgiveness, never give in. Every match, every take, we're all in. This is wrestling raw and uncut. CWC's here, we're